As you start to use your bike more, you're invariably going to be putting more wear and tear onto the bike. And if you're putting your bike into the back of the car before you go on for a bike ride, it's really important to make sure that it is safe before we start riding. At Discover Adventure, we do what we call an M check before we go on a ride, where we picture the bike as a letter M and work our way through the shape of the letter, which checks off all the important bits, making sure that our bike is safe for the road. We firstly need to make sure that our tyre pressure is adequate and if there are any faults with the tyre at all. We're going to check that our skewer is tight, it isn't pointing backwards, and that it is pointing up so that it's not against the frame. Next we come to our brakes, and we need to make sure that the pads aren't too worn and also that the wheel isn't too buckled. At the top of the first part of the M we get to our saddle. We need to make sure that the saddle height is adequate and that the angle is correct and it's not going to move at all whilst you're riding on it. Working our way down the letter M we get to the gears, and we need to just make sure that the gear is correct to set off, so it's not in too big a gear or too small a gear. Next we get to our bottle cages, and we just need to make sure that they're filled up with water and that our cages are tight. At the very top of the letter we need to make sure that our bike computer is okay and it's ready to go. Coming back down the M we get to our front brakes, and again we need to make sure that the pads aren't too worn and also that the front wheel isn't buckled. When we get to the middle of the wheel we're going to check the skewer again. This time we want to make sure that the skewer is pointing upwards, and again it's not pointing against the frame, otherwise it'll be very hard to release it later. And lastly, at the bottom of our M we're going to check the front tyre pressure is adequate, and again there's no wear on the front tyre at all. An additional check that you can also do is what we call the drop check. What we do is we lift the front wheel up when we drop it, then we lift the back wheel up and drop it, and we're listening out for a dull metallic thud.